Steve, how are you?
Wonderful. It's a
Well,
podcast.
you know why? Because we can talk about beer. That's the best part.
We've worked this scam for a long time to finally have a beer episode.
This is exactly we've been three almost 200 episodes or whatever we're at. I think we're like 150 at this point. I've
It's
lost
almost
count.
200.
But that's almost 200. This podcast, which you've probably listened to every single episode of, I know somebody that has just made it into the year 2023 of our discography, so to speak.
It's worth keeping it
they're
up. Keep it
they're
up. Keep
yeah.
keep coming.
So they're gonna get to this in probably 2026 at least. But
The show gets better. The characters could
yes,
develop more. They get stronger. The storylines are great.
that podcast that we were talking about, of course, is called Stuff Summer Says
Steve,
with Steve. We get to talk about beer this week because we are joined by Eric Engelbarts, who is the executive director of Happy Valley Sports and Entertainment Alliance, which is hosting Hoppy Valley Brew Fest on May 11th. So we get to talk to Eric about the behind the scenes that's kind of going into that event, which is very exciting. We're also gonna release the results of our NIL survey. Then we're gonna come back to beer because why not? I should have grabbed a beer this week. I grabbed an ice cold Coca-Cola. This podcast is not sponsored by Coca-Cola, but if it was, that would be great. So go ahead and take a listen to our interview with Eric, and we'll be back after this. Steve, we are joined by someone that I'm excited to talk to for tons of different reasons. Mainly because I think we might get to talk a little bit about beer, and I like beer. So I'm excited to talk
good
beer.
job by the booking agent again. Got to pay that guy more money.
They're working hard. They are working hard. Eric Engelbarts, who is the executive director of Happy Valley Sports and Entertainment, joins us to discuss really all things about his career and all things about Happy Valley Sports and Entertainment, and also the Hoppy Valley Brewing Fest, which everybody is very fired up with, as I've seen all over my social media in the last 2 weeks. Eric, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
So, Eric, as a Penn State fan, what is Happy Valley Sports and Entertainment Alliance, and why should I care?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. We're actually a brand new entity, so we have been in existence not too long. Actually, we're actually forming still as a 501c3 nonprofit. So the mission of this nonprofit is to drive Happy Valley's sports and entertainment strategy, enrich the quality of life, create economic impact, and raise visibility of the region. So essentially, what does that mean? We work as kind of the region's sports commission with entertainment thrown into our title. So we're looking to those events rights holders that host events that travel around the country. We go into the marketplace. We convince those rights holders to host their events here. And as they do, people travel into town. They stay in hotels, eat in our restaurants, and shop in our businesses. So essentially, we're affecting the local economy through sports tourism.
Sorry, my dogs are barking here. But that makes a lot of sense. How is that kind of, you said it's relatively new. How did it come about? Why this need all of a sudden?
Sure.
Even if
Yeah,
sports, it's been a while.
I am. We are being seeded out of the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau, so the Convention and Visitors Bureau here locally. And I would say, why is it just now getting started? Actually, we're late to the game. So a lot of these sports commission and entertainment alliances have been started 20, 30 some years ago. It's just one of those things that as we're getting up and running, like people are just learning about us. But yeah, no, these other cities and have been out here competing for business, trying to draw these things into their towns to have the economic benefit that comes along with it. So us just getting started here is actually coming in late to the game.
And so with that kind of, as you get going, what are some of the types of events besides maybe the brew fest that you're going to have, that you're looking to have or planning to have kind of coming down the pipe?
Yeah, I'll actually give you a perfect example of what we do. So last summer, we hosted the Ironman 70.3 Pennsylvania Happy Valley. So that event just didn't decide to come to Happy Valley. That was a strategic initiative by our office. So at one of these trade shows that we go to, Ironman happened to be there, and the conversation was struck up after several site visits. a lot of contracts, a lot of behind the scenes stuff. We were able to book the Ironman to come in. They are currently on a 3-year contract, so we're going into year 2 this summer. But yeah, our office is where it originated. So that's us out there saying, hey, we want you to come in and run an event in Happy Valley and work through the details in order to make it so.
So Eric, you're trying to attract the people, right, to come here, and you're also engaging, selling, getting the folks here that are already here to come along with the idea, right? Because the facilities for that event, for the Ironman, were here for years. Could have happened, but your idea made it happen. Which side is easier to sell, or how are the challenges different to sell from the outside folks coming in and the inside folks saying, oh, why do we need this? We didn't have it before. Like, how do we get involved? Why do we want to get involved?
Right. Yeah. A lot of education on both ends all around. And particularly when you start to use venues like a Bald Eagle State Park that isn't necessarily attuned to tourism or sporting events for that matter, going into those conversations. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it's basically starting from scratch, and you're educating them. As you host these events, people travel in, and it's one of those things where you kind of give them the song and dance a little bit, and then here comes the event, and here comes 3,000 athletes from all over the country, actually all over the world, into Bald Eagle State Park. And you just see this sea of swimmers getting ready to pop into the lake. And as you're talking to the officials there and anyone associated with those venues, but like they start to understand that this wasn't here before, now it's here before, and look what it's brought. And in terms of, we try to be light on impact and clean up after ourselves and, do those things. And also it's held on a Sunday morning where, the venue would typically be available. So I try to take that all into account. But yeah, really the name of the game is bringing the visitors in, putting them in hotels and eating in our restaurants.
That makes a lot of sense. The one thing that I kind of keep hearing from you that I hear from another prominent person in State College, which is Pat Kraft, is we want to find ways to utilize Penn State's venues. And obviously you guys don't necessarily have control over Penn State's venues, but I think the Iron Man finished inside Beaver Stadium. This event's going to be held in Beaver Stadium. What has that relationship been like in fostering that? It seems like it's kind of a perfect collision course of timing, if you will.
Right. Yeah, and Dr. Kraft is on our board as well. So yeah, and actually, where my presence comes in is, there was a change in leadership with the athletic department, and Dr. Kraft coming in, as well as a change in the president's office as well with Neely Bendaputi coming in too. So kind of in combination with those two aspects and the administration's changing, this Sports and Entertainment Alliance was formed. And our board is made up of prominent officials on both the town and the gown side. So we do have an equal mix. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the goal. We're here to kind of talk about Beaver Stadium a little bit, but that is kind of the mantra is like, okay, we have this beautiful facility. It's been here. We use it 7 weekends a year. What else can we do to help spur, more activity within that venue? And I'll tell you what, working with the athletic department, intercollegiate athletics has just been amazing. The stuff that they're willing to do that, as we go to announce the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest, I got people writing in, and you'll see it on social media, that this would have never, ever happened, in previous administrations. And so to kind of see this with fresh new eyes that kind of come in here and know, hey, I wouldn't say anything's possible, but it's on the table to be discussed. And let's talk about ways that we can utilize some of these venues that might not be utilized all year round.
So with that, oh, go ahead, Steve.
I was just, in terms of fresh new eyes, you've been here about a year. It'll be a year in April. What was it about this opportunity, this gig? Because you were in this business before. Why Happy Valley? What looked good about this opportunity for you, and what have you found in less than a year?
Yeah, I have a little bit of an entrepreneur mindset in my world, but yeah, where I came from, and I don't know how much we'll get into it at this point, but I had worked for the West Michigan Sports Commission for the last 15 years before moving here, and as part of that, I was their third and final hire at the time to help get it up and running. So I came on as their events guy. After a couple of years, we created a signature event. That signature event grew to such heights that we then created another nonprofit to actually oversee this nonprofit or the signature event that I was running. And so I had been there for 15 years. I saw it get up and running. I see and understand and value the power of sports tourism, and in this case, entertainment as well. When they were looking for a new executive director to help get up and running, I thought, man, that would be awesome to be able to do this all over again, but do it from the executive director chair. And there's something to be said from, going from zero to let's see how far we can take this thing and know that it happened because you were there. That's one of those things that really appeals to me. And not to mention my wife's family's from Albany, New York. So it is getting a little bit closer to home. Not too close where they can just pop in whenever they want, but it's closer to home.
Did you have Penn State ties at all? Were you just
No,
okay.
I hadn't had no Penn State ties. That was kind of an interesting. That was one of my questions in my interview: is why don't you hire a Penn State grad? And their answer basically was like, we talked about it and we decided it could go either way, but bringing in fresh eyes, a professional in the industry that has been working in this for some time, they're also open to that. So, me coming in and we talk about, oh my gosh, no one's been on Beaver Stadium's field. It's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, and we're going to be on the field and let's drink some beer while we're there. Like there's no history that's tying me back to, whether or not we can do this. It's, well, we're going to try to do this, and ultimately we're going to be successful. So, kind of bringing in somebody from the outside kind of has a fresh perspective a little bit.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask or maybe allude to. Is I have to imagine you see a football stadium, you see a 7,500 hockey rink, you see a 1,500 seat basketball arena. There's not carte blanche here, but there's a lot of Play-Doh to work with, so to speak. So that has to be exciting for you, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll give you another out of the box thing. We're actually putting on a newsletter here in the next day or two that you'll be able to read about. We're going to be hosting roller hockey inside of Pakula. So they're gonna take out their ice, for commencement, and then I think it's the week or two after in May. We're bringing in the roller derby. Let's do. It's considered a Northeast regional. However, there are international teams that will compete into that, and they'll come into Pagula, and they're going to have a great experience being in that awesome venue and utilized in a completely different way.
So this really is your goal, is to leverage the facilities, leverage what you have available in ways that not necessarily were before. And I think that leads pretty well into the fact that people are going to be drinking on the field at Beaver Stadium. How did this whole idea come about?
So this idea was something I kind of backed into. So it kind of has two prongs or two paths kind of merge into one. So the Hoppy Valley Adventure Bureau that I'm part of here until we spin off into our 501c3 nonprofit here in the next couple of months. They had been in conversations with the previous athletic administration about doing some type of beer festival, wine festival, but they were looking at doing it in the club, doing it at a much smaller scale, just bringing this to Hoppy Valley. And then along came the formation of this board, the Hoppy Valley Sports and Entertainment Alliance, and the athletic directors changeover. And John Schaefer, the owner of Anti-Fragile Brewing Company, happened to get the ear of one of the deputy athletic directors, who also thought drinking beer on the Beaver Stadium might be a good idea. And so they had reached out to me and said, hey, what do you think? And so having known that they were trying to do it in this office, also this fills that entertainment portion of the Hoppy Valley Sports and Entertainment Alliance that I was like, yeah, this sounds amazing. I'm in. I'd love to be a part of this. And then kind of the rest is history. So we got the approvals from the university, and now we're working through the details to make it happen in May.
What are some of those details? I mean, I know you've got tickets and ticket updates coming soon and everything like that, but how many breweries are you expecting, looking at, all of that type of stuff?
Yeah, good. So it's Saturday, May 11th, 2024 coming up. Right now, what we're looking at is just a one-day thing where from 10 a.m. to noon, individuals can come in. We'll do some type of pre-event, pre-party the whole goal of this is to try to get as many people ID'd and ready to enter the stadium as possible when the event actually starts. So from 10 to noon, we'll be doing some things here. Details are still coming forth, but we're trying to create a cool event to happen as kind of a precursor to going in. Starting at noon, we allow what we call our VIPs, those that get in an hour early, will be able to head into the stadium, and then from 1 to 5 is general admission, where the rest of us can come in. On the field, we're looking at least 75 different breweries. We'll have a stage that will have live music. Right now, we're anticipating 4 different bands, more details to come. And then basically what you'll see is you'll be able to work your way around to the various brewery tents. You'll get your sample of the beer, and then just be able to just continue to walk around and enjoy the atmosphere, take pictures, enjoy being on the field. We're kind of working through what type of entertainment options we might be able to do in addition to the music. So, creating that game day type atmosphere, whether it's, cornhole stuff or football toss or, something along those lines to really kind of make it special. But, ultimately we're here as craft beer connoisseurs to go through and be able to taste your favorite beverages. And I will say, spoiler alert, there will be some special beers that are being brewed for this event that you will not be able to get anywhere else. So be able to taste those beers from all of your favorite breweries from the state of Pennsylvania, as well as outside the state, which some of those breweries have Penn State ties as well. But essentially you get 4 to 5 hours to enjoy yourself and drink a sample on Beaver Stadium's field.
That's great.
What will make it a success in your eyes?
Yep.
I mean, is it just happening as a success, or is there something else where you're like, okay, this will mean it's good and we did a great job?
Yeah, so there's a lot of those. Yeah, if it just happens, that's going to be one. We'll say you never want to be the first, and as you're going into this is a whole new thing. It's the university's never held a beer festival before, so what type of paperwork comes along with that? How do you set capacity? Getting these event diagrams approved and making sure everyone's going to have safe and they have a good time. What do we need for security or ushers, in presence, and then how many people can we even invite? So we're working through all those details right now. More information will be released here in the next couple of weeks. So just stay tuned as it comes through. But this will be this will be a fundraiser for the Hoppy Valley Sports and Entertainment Alliance that will go to help fund our work as a 501c3. We also have varying partners. We call them founding partners. So with Anti-Fragile Brewing Company, Hoppy Valley Adventure Bureau, the Hoppy Valley Sports and Entertainment Alliance. In addition to that, we have the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association. They go by PRLA. We'll be doing donations to their scholarship program. And then also BOP, the Brewers of Pennsylvania, has been helping out, trying to ease over bringing in beer from outside the state to make sure that all goes well and what we're working on. So a lot of people involved, but yeah, ultimately it's getting through the event, making sure when everyone has a safe and exciting experience, and then ultimately be able to plan for year 2 and be able to do bigger and better things. So just getting it going, make sure everybody has a good time and gets out safely is probably the main goal number 1 in this year.
The capacity and legal hoops, I know you're I'm sure looking forward to jumping through and all that stuff. But I'm curious, the urban legend and probably the reality of Beaver Stadium through the course of my lifetime and many Penn State fans was, look, can't step on the field on those 7 days a week because can't hurt it for football. I'm curious what's been, and it's a whole new regime in athletics now, but what has been their biggest concern or concerns as you go through this? Like, has it been, oh gosh, we've got to figure out how to protect the turf, or is there something else that as you work through, you're like, okay, that's what matters to them. This is what we got to get them over the hump to make this happen for? Yeah,
no, great question. So we actually benefit from Luke Combs. So Luke Combs is going to have our concert on the field at the beginning of like mid-April or end of April there. And so right after that, they'll have graduation, and then we come in, and then basically they were looking at replacing the turf this year anyway because of that concert. So instead of starting directly right after graduation, they get to wait until after our event, and then they can rip the turf off. So as far as protecting the field, we get real lucky in that, and we'll see how that goes from years to come. We're looking just to be successful in May moving forward. But yeah, honestly, it's just like what you would imagine on behalf of the university. It's just making sure everyone is safe, behaves themselves, has a good time. We're really trying to be diligent about that. This is you want to be a connoisseur of craft beer, that this isn't the world's largest tailgate. You know what I mean? This is people coming in and enjoying the craft and enjoying the beer, asking questions of the breweries, of the individuals pouring the beer, of, what goes into this, or why did it come out like this? And actually having people on that side serving the beer that can answer those questions. So, craft beer enthusiasts can come out, geek out, and see all their favorite breweries in one spot, and then also do it at a very cool location.
So, you have this event as your fundraiser, and you kind of hope that it goes well, and I would have to imagine that it will go well. But what's next then? What is kind of, beyond just this event? How do you use this as a launching point into other ideas, whether it be concerts or other Ironman type events?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. So we're 3 board meetings into the development of this organization, and as part of that, the board will help set strategy of what they want to see here within Happy Valley, and whether that's music festivals, additional big concerts at Beaver. Then you start looking into the sports landscape and really taking a look at the hotels. When are need times? Like when are low visitation periods coming through? And you take all of these factors and you put them together, and then that really starts to help point you towards what should I be concentrating on. Like outside of the university, we work with the Nittany Valley Sports Center as well as C3 Sports, and trying to pinpoint their passions. Like, what do they like to see coming in with those facilities? Also, State College High School, area high school, and their facilities as well. It's, hey, let's talk to the athletic director and see what makes sense on their end as well. But really, I think our next goal as a board is to sit down and really strategic plan over the next 3 to 5 years of where do we see ourselves going, and what needs do we need to, what holes can we plug in doing so, and that'll really tell you what you need to concentrate on moving forward.
That makes a lot of sense.
You mentioned board. How big is the staff? Like, there's an executive director. Seems like a good dude.
Yeah, we got an executive director.
Do you have people from the Adventure Bureau doing double duty sort of now at this point, or how much of any staff is yours?
So I do have one. I have one guy that serves as my sports services manager. So essentially, we go out, book the business as they come in. Then he makes sure that everything that they were promised that gets delivered on our behalf. And so between the 2 of us and a couple of interns, that's the office. So the thing is outside of the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest, which we're really serving on the local planning committee here, like Ironman doesn't really need a whole lot of help running an Ironman. They need help getting into the market. They need help, pulling together the contracts and getting the right people to the table. Once that's done, it's like you just kind of get out of the way. You're like, it's Ironman show. We're just going to show up and, make sure our VIPs have a good time or have a good experience, trying to make their way around the event. So, yes, are we going to be looking at potential more staff down the road? Absolutely. But like right now, we're kind of going until we set a direction and figure out where we're at. So, the biggest question becomes, I'm super knowledgeable in sports commission work. That's where I come from. That's my background. And so around here, we talk about entertainment, we talk about arts, we talk about culture. And that to me is a big landscape to be able to navigate. And really, that's what I look to the board's help into kind of figuring out. Are we doing more concerts at Beaver Stadium? Are we trying to fill the State Theater? Are we looking at the Eisenhower Auditorium? Where are the big needs? And then that'll help us kind of pinpoint what we concentrate on.
I got one last one. I'm curious, what would be your beer of choice? What kind of a craft beer drinker are you?
Good question. So I'll throw out, I can drink any type of beer, but what I'll throw out to you is probably something unusual. So like I said, I had lived in Grand Rapids for the last 15 years. One of the largest breweries in Grand Rapids is Founders. And Founders was a Dirty Bastard. It is a Scotch ale. It's a high octane Scotch ale that essentially took them from on the brink of bankruptcy and made them what they are today. And so, if you want some type of obscure beer to like, try a Dirty Bastard from Founders.
I like that. I like that recommendation. All right. Now's your chance to give all of your other recommendations, aka how can people find Happy Valley Sports and Entertainment Alliance? How can they find out more about the Hoppy Valley Brew Fest? Any other events that you guys have coming up?
Absolutely. Everything originates from our website. So if you Google or go to Happy Valley Sports and Entertainment Alliance.com, you'll be able to find the Brewers Fest. You'll be able to find information about volunteering for Ironman, upcoming events that we're working with in the local area, and if they have any needs or ways that you can get involved. But right now, what I would suggest for your viewers and listeners, the Hoppy Valley Brewers Fest, head to that website. So hoppyvalleybrewersfest.com. Sign up for ticket updates, because what I will say is, as soon as we get the capacity, which is what we're expecting here in the next day or so, we'll open it up for ticket sales. And I have a feeling that demand is probably going to be more than the tickets that we're going to be able to sell. So make sure you're on that list to be notified for when tickets go on sale, so that you can be one of the first to drink beer on Beaver Stadium's field.
You heard the man. We'll follow those marching orders. Eric, thank you so much for joining us and spending some time with us and explaining everything to us. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate the invite. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Steve, I think the thing that stood out to me the most here is, like I mentioned to Eric, is we are at a point, things feel different. This does not feel like this could have happened 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, in terms of these types of events. It's exciting to see. I know they're not necessarily involved in the Luke Combs thing. I know that there was that concert a few years ago, a while back, but I don't know. It just feels like starting to use the stadium facilities, really Beaver Stadium itself, is, besides the 7 or 8 football games a year, is a smart idea. I mean, it's there. What else are they going to use it for?
No, this is yeah, it's coming. It's like everything else has just changed. I think the thing that struck me is, and I think the people that were right, that made the decision in the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau and the Sports Entertainment Alliance, is to have someone who's not a Penn Stater in Eric's seat. I just think the mindset that was ingrained, or this is what Penn State is, this is what Central Pennsylvania is. I think it's good from somebody from the outside to come look at it, right? Like, I mean, I'm happy with how stuff works lots of times. So what would be the impetus for me or someone else who's experienced this to want to change it? I think these are good things for the economy, good things for the local community. But I think that was a really important decision for them to say. When he talked about not being a Penn Stater, I think that was a wise decision.
I think that is probably why people are so excited about this, because I don't know, no offense, like I feel like Penn Staters would be afraid to like push that envelope. Not saying that this idea was solely Eric's, but sometimes it just takes that one person, and it seems like Eric in a lot of ways might end up being that person, or at least have a bigger seat at the table. So excited for that. I'm excited to see what else they bring, because I think it is always any excuse for somebody that does not live in the center part of the state, or really even in the state at all. Like, any excuse for me to go back, yes, like I will gladly take advantage of that, and this is another one of those type things.
Yeah, I mean, Ironman last year was great. We had a student of mine, who became a good friend, stayed with us to compete, right? So, we kind of got involved just watching and not so much volunteering. This thing, the Brew Fest is going to be good in year one, and it's going to be good in year two. I mean, you talked about subsequent years, and it kind of reminds me, and I know we'll talk next week. Here's a long-term, play the long guarantees. We'll talk next week, Penn State hockey. But Guy Godowski mentioned, people told us, oh, you guys are going to draw a crowd the first couple of years. It's going to be great. And then after that, we'll see. The past 3 Saturdays, they've had their 3 largest crowds in program history. I think events like Happy Valley Brew Fest are going to be successful from the start and have legs that continue for many of the same reasons. They're great entertainment, they're fun, and I think the people in the community are going to get behind them and come back to Happy Valley, come back to the stadium and drink beer on May 11th, no doubt about it. Yeah. I thought the other line about not being a big tailgate, I think that'll be an interesting line for them to. And the price point on the tickets will probably be what facilitates that from happening.
I think that, and I think, I don't know, like I feel like if I'm gonna go drink craft beer, I'm gonna behave differently than I am if I'm gonna go to a tailgate, because I'm gonna drink.
Yeah, there's probably no shotgun and sample cups,
right? Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. No, I'm interested to see what other events, because it just feels, like I said,
Roller derby. You
yeah,
heard that? Roller derby. There you
that's,
go.
I mean, well, and I know that's a big, I know there's like the women's team. I don't know if it still exists, but there was like a women's team.
There's one up here.
Okay.
So yeah.
So yeah, cool. All right. Well, thank you to Eric for joining us. You can check out all the details at Hoppy Valley Brewfest. .com, I think, is the address. Okay. What you can check out on stuffsummersays.com is our first ever NIL survey. Great responses, a lot of interesting responses, a lot of good responses. So we asked a few questions. Let me see, let me count them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, about 5 questions. 6, 5.5, because we had a fill-in entry. And essentially, what I wanted to determine, or what I wanted to set out, why I set out on this mission, was how has NIL been received? And I don't know if there's been any official polling, any official data. And this is not by any means official data or official polling, but
It's official Stuff Summer Says data.
it's at least data, right? You know what I mean? So we're gonna look at it and talk about it. Okay. We're gonna pull this live because I had a hectic day today. So bear with me as I work through spreadsheet problems. First question was, in general, do you support NIL for college athletes? How did Steve Samsel answer this question?
Oh, I checked no. Come on.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You
I would
expected
have.
that.
I checked yes. Would have
Yes.
checked yes.
And that got the majority of the responses.
And that got you the majority. 70% of people
Okay.
said yes on this question. 30% saying no. So wanted to get that one. The next question that I set out to ask was built around the idea of how well do people know Penn State's NIL collective? Because I know it because I pay attention to it. And I think there were a lot of hiccups in the space, particularly with having 2 different groups. And I think people are still confused. And I know that gets alluded to in one of the like write-in answers here. So let's take a look at those numbers as I slowly pull them. Okay, so we gave you 4 options. Only 3 of the options were selected. Okay.
That's good because one of them was just a crappy throw out option. It was a bad option. Not a real option at all. I don't know. Like the 4th one was just made up, wasn't it? Like one was.
They were all made. Well, all of
I know,
them,
but one was really bad. One was really obviously bad. Oh my God. Okay. So how many people got the right answer?
We're gonna give you the percentage, which is
45%.
90%.
Look at that. What a smart audience we have.
Smart audience. Pay attention. So 8% selected the Blue Stripe Collective, and
they were just getting ahead on the beer.
3% selected the Lion's Den. So, and I think that was a couple.
They were probably planning on their weekend. Yeah, that's right.
So
it's all beer. Blue Stripe, Lions. It's all alcohol.
That was what I was going. That was why So
no,
I don't know.
Okay, good. So they know what's going on.
Yeah,
they want to pay them and they know what's going on. That's what we know through the first 2 questions.
Well, okay. All right. So now comes the next question, which is an important one because we ask, how are people doing? Or how is Happy Valley United doing? We were very specific in the wake so that you didn't get the answer if you were paying attention and there was no cheating. You shouldn't have Googled it. So we did it grade scale, A through F, no E. Because no, I don't know why there's no E, but there's no E. Nobody answered an A. No one answered an A.
Okay.
I'm not surprised by that though. How would you have answered this one? Actually, wait, let me get through the results and then we can get to that.
Yeah, I didn't give him an A. I don't remember what I gave, but I didn't give him an A.
Okay. So in general, what grade would you give Penn State's NIL collective? That was the question. And let's see, 26% said B.
Wow. Okay. Tough crowd too.
C was the most selected answer at hold on, I can't round. 59%.
Okay.
D was 10%.
Yep.
And 5% said F.
Okay.
I'm not surprised by any of these.
So only 20-some%, whatever the B was, thought they're doing actually somewhat good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I probably would have C-, like C- at best, just but I think over year progression will bump it up
Yep.
to a C.
Yep.
I think is where I was at. What would you have answered on this?
I probably gave him a C. I mean, I'm sure I didn't give him any higher than a C. I mean,
Here, go ahead.
I don't know. They still don't feel organized to me, right? And they still feel behind the game on this. And part of that is the people like me that were the 30% that weren't giving them anything to begin with, right? Or weren't going to support them, right? I just feel like it's if 30%, if 30% of Penn State's fan base isn't in on supporting this, they're going to struggle, right? They're just going to struggle because 30% aren't going to be behind and 30% aren't going to give money. And that's going to limit them in some ways. And I still think, I mean, it's part of the discussion, right? I just tell me you're paying for them to play. And that's not the NIL's fault, but go ahead and say, this is what we are. Boom.
That's
This
the
is what
ecosystem's fault.
right. Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Here's what this data, as I've been kind of just keeping an eye on it as it's come in, has said to me or has started to ring. I think Happy Valley United has done a better job. You could go look at the article we wrote on the blog last year when Micah Shrewsbury left and the marketing that was around them because it was piss poor. It really was, and I feel like they've done a much better job of marketing themselves this year between the two collectives at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has gotten better, but I think the thing that is missing the most here is the why. And I think that is what they're struggling to, and maybe this is not a Penn State issue in general, but I think that is the biggest thing that they are struggling to push home and hit home with, particularly. And I don't, maybe we can, like, I don't necessarily think this is like, I don't have data to prove this or whatever, but I do think this is, my gut would tell me this more of these types of answers are your generation or not necessarily. Like, I feel like my generation is okay with NIL, would donate if they could. We have that data point as well, but I just think the why is missing, and we've done things here a certain way for however many years. Why does it need to change? And that's the question that's not being answered, and that's why people aren't supporting.
I think it's so yes and right. Always stand up comedy. Yes and like yes, you're right. And the other part is the why. There just has to be an over. We need the money. That's like this is how it's going to happen. Like that, there has to be that acknowledgement of the ecosystem as it is now, and that's how we're going to stay competitive. You can coaches here can say they got to go to class. Teams want to compete for national championships. It's about excellence. It's about support. It's about putting the athletes in a position to succeed. And that's all true. And that's all the blue and white stuff that has been my lifetime. The other part is everybody else is paying their student athletes. If we don't do this, we need to do this to be competitive. We are not letting go. The message is we are not letting go of these other values. We believe these, but we need this too to be successful. And I don't know that I've overtly heard that in big public spaces. I mean, maybe smaller spaces among the givers in the NIL, whatever, and everybody's there, but they need to get more people singing the song so they can raise more money.
There's 2 points off of that. I'm going to write the second one down of the givers. The first one, I think, to me, that stands out there is I think about this from the perspective of, like, anytime these articles come up on, like, On3 or even The Athletic has done a couple articles, like anonymous, like Recruiting Confidential anonymous or whatever, and kind of asking the recruits how did they rank it. It's funny to hear you say it that way, because I feel like I wonder internally if we are projecting that, right? Like, if we, the fan, are projecting the athlete only are picking schools based on your money. And I do think that for some athletes, they are picking it based on money. And I think that financial situations probably impact that greatly, like their home life and et cetera. I also think what's interesting is, and I think that's why it's interesting to hear you say that, because it does click that bell, is it hasn't been presented as the and, right? Like it's this or that. And I think presenting it as the and, which is what probably comes through on the, not maybe majority, but like a decent number of those types of articles of, it was a factor, but it wasn't necessarily always the factor. I think that's important to hear. And I think, again, we're not getting that as fans. as I sit here as a common average fan, in my opinion, who doesn't give that much money to Penn State type thing.
I think I get that vibe from the people who are getting recruited. Is it may not be the deciding factor. It's certainly part of it. Pete Gonzalez told us that when we talked about from the
Yeah,
parent side,
that's
right?
true.
Like, hey, it's a business decision. We talked about it. He didn't say it was the most important thing, but we certainly had an NIL discussion, right? And what does that mean? And he was thinking about a business opportunity for himself that could support NIL for the other player, right? So I think it goes back to kind of the drum I've been banging about the whole time. Go ahead and pay him. Go ahead and be transparent about it. And you can't say and. You can't say these are our core principles and we've got to do this to be competitive if you're not willing to be transparent, right? And that's the same thing with all these NIL deals. Well, you can't talk about them. Nobody, you can't tell what you're doing. I get, but the players do talk. The players probably do know, right? And I don't think it's going to make. Everybody's assuming they're making a boatload of money and they're doing stuff and might be grumpy about it. How about just telling the truth? Here's what it is. This is what it costs. People know how much a gallon of gas costs. People know how much their groceries cost, how much their trip to vacation costs. It's okay for an informed fan base and people who want to care about your program to know, you know what? Every player's making on the football team is making $25,000 minimum, and here's a couple other things that the better players are getting. And I think they'd understand the end, because if we don't find that $25,000, then guess what? You're still going to be 9-3, or you're still going to lose to Ohio State and Michigan.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because I was thinking about the Ryan Day comment, right? Like, Ohio State just fired their basketball coach and the buyout's going to be $15 million. How much did Ryan Day essentially lobby for? Essentially $15 million. And it seemingly lit a fire under Ohio State fan asses to donate, to chip in. And yeah, I think that's, again, like, salaries are weird because, like, essentially these are salaries in my opinion, right? And I want salary transparency as a millennial because that's important. But I think we open ourselves up. I don't know. And this is where, like, it starts to get murky, right? Like, how do we critique a player when they're still a student athlete? And this is just, that's where, like, to me, it gets murky.
Right. We're just going to have to learn to deal with it because the ship has sailed, right? Like,
Right.
it is. Yep.
And so where I fall on that, right, is like, that's on the collective itself to they don't necessarily need to open the books. I don't necessarily need to see, okay, football we raised $20 million for football. I doubt it's that much, but let's say it's $10 million for football last year. And $3 million for basketball and $3 million for hockey, right? Like, I don't necessarily need that type of metrics, but I do want to see it, put it in a competitive way, because that's what Ryan Day did, and that's what kind of worked, right? Like,
Well, and here's why being able to tell the story matters and answer the question, because it's not going to be the collective for more than a couple more years. Pretty soon, it's just going to be the university, because these things are going to go underneath the athletic departments, right? So they're going to need to be able to figure out how to tell that story, because they're going to be the one running it in a couple of years, maybe sooner.
right? Because, I mean, and we had our numbers extravaganza of diving through that. I think that will be a line item. I think it's just eventually just going to be a line item in those numbers of, this is how much Penn State paid its student athletes besides their tuition, which I don't know. That we're spiraling into a rabbit hole, and I want to get back to the giver statement, but let me get into this rabbit hole real quick. It makes no damn sense to me why, and maybe this is because I just want free tuition for all or whatever. Remember this, I'm the millennial on the show. But it makes no damn sense to me why we have scholarships anymore. It makes no damn sense to me why we can't just say, if you would like here's your just come. Is Penn State missing out on that much money? Like,
no, but it's just a way of accounting for the endeavor, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it'll be there in some way. It just in a couple of years they may just give them all the money and they just do the accounting on the paper and nothing changes hands. Who knows? So
I don't know, because
we got one question left, 2 questions left.
Okay, sorry, we're getting that sidetracked. The givers, the givers?
Go.
Let me just say this real quick. We have to figure this out, and this is probably the next thing I want to accomplish with this podcast is, what is the ROI? What is the, like, why should I, big money, rich, multi-million dollars in my pocket that I wish I had, why should I donate to this? And I think that's we can.
So if you're out there listening and you're one of those listeners, we'd love to talk to you about why you give.
Yes, and then you can also just give to us. Okay, here we go. Have you financially supported Penn State's NIL collective? 20% of our respondents said yes. 28% said no, but I would if I could. So
Okay.
that leaves roughly 51% saying no, and I don't plan to.
Okay.
Which
Those
is
are my thinking.
interesting. Which is interesting. You get that 70-30, yes, I support it, and then you
Well,
essentially get
feel
20
free
more.
and go do it, but I can't afford to, right? Maybe, maybe that's it. Maybe it's your, the millennials are like, oh no, I can't because I don't. So maybe when they hit the lottery, NIL will be one of the things they give to.
All right. We then asked kind of what we just got to as the crux of the question is, do you think college athletic departments should just pay the student athletes? There were 2 yes options and there was a no option. The majority said yes overall. 46% said yes, all athletes deserve a cut. 33% said only the revenue generating sports deserve a cut, which unfortunately that's where I lie with it, which it probably hurts the non-revenue generating sports.
You can talk to those kids.
Yeah.
Those 700 student athletes you just took money away from because only 100 of them are relevant. Well, no, 100 in football. Yeah, 200 maybe at the most.
And then 21% said no. So 21% said, nah, I don't want you getting money. Okay, so that was like it for our like those types of questions. I'm gonna read just like some of the general comments that we often open up and allow to as I copy and paste those over here. NIL will ruin college football. It's out of control and no oversight. Penn State needs to step up with its NIL basketball program. The players deserve a cut of the revenue directly from the university. It's asinine to make fans pay on top to direct who wins and loses. Guilt tripping alumni to give to athletics so that the team can compete is wrong. That's pretty harsh. There needs to be some regulation. It's the wild, wild west. Let's see. I already paid Penn State athletics enough. Athletes should receive a stipend rather than all the money going to coaches, administrators, and more stadium upgrades to the rich. That seems to be the sentiment right there. Like those kind of seem to be the sentiment of I'm forced to do this and I don't really want to do this, and goes back to the why.
I think so, I'm more on the why still, even though I'm no for a lot of the stuff with student athletes. Even a stronger no on layers of administrative assistants, assistant athletic directors. Somebody else, administrative assistants, got to answer the phone. Although Penn State's going to have teams calling soon, so they won't even be answering the phone; they'll be answering the computer. Yeah, I just think all these people on kids' backs is even more unseemly to me than paying them. And I appreciate I'm in a business where we teach people to present events and do things and communicate. But I'm sorry, Penn State has the same number of student athletes that it had all those years ago, except for hockey. And there are so many more layers of administrators. It's just almost ugly. I think student athletes should be mad at people that are supporting them in some ways, right? Those supporters, as opposed to the people who are on the outside paying the money.
Yeah.
Which is probably hurting us from getting athletic department guests as I say that out loud.
That's fine. that bloat is real. Like I feel that bloat. I think if you pay attention, that bloat appears to be real, whether it's warranted or not. Probably is up for discussion. Well, so thank you to everybody that took part in our NIL survey. I think that was a good pulse on things, though. I think that was pretty much about how I felt about it. Pretty much about what I expected, but just wanted to kind of confirm that. So,
take the time. It was great. Thank you. Thanks for making a good, quick survey too. It's like 5 questions and whatever else. That was efficient.
We're in and out here quick. And thanks to everybody that dropped off their email. We'll probably do a newsletter soon based on that. A couple people. So, okay. This week's old guy, young guy. We're gonna go back to beer because that's important to discuss. Okay. This week's old guy, young guy is beer. Steve wants to know if I've ever done what? You were asking me with my shoe or whatever.
Oh, I asked you, yeah, because I am challenged. I have none of the old redneck skills of like opening a beer bottle off the side of a table or whatever else. So you're Bic lighter. If you don't have, if you don't have a bottle opener, I'm pretty much screwed unless, my wife's around or somebody's got more skills than me. So I'm curious, are you able to like open the bottle without the bottle opener?
No. No.
So we would both die of thirst on the desert island. That's not good.
I drink American beer, damn it. So
Oh, I think Yinglings are Yinglings.
they're screw off now.
Okay. See, and that's where I was going with my other shoe. So we're in the Skeller. Was it still the Skeller? Might have changed names by then. And we went in after the last Beaver Stadium concert, so that many years ago. And I'm like, oh, we got ponies. I'm like all excited. We hadn't had ponies in a while. Ponies are twist tops, but I had totally forgot that. So I pulled off my cool little flip flop that has the beer bottle opener on the bottom of it, and I'm popping it open, and everybody's looking at me at the table. I'm like, what? My opener, this is great. And they're like, dude, it's a twist top. I'm like, okay, never mind.
People were upset about the twist top part, or were they upset about you using your flip flop?
That's what it's made for. Reef flip flops.
Yes, I know it's made for that.
Literally their job.
But
literally
I
their job.
assume
If I didn't do that, that would be an affront to the fine people at Reef. Who make the best flip flops in the world, by the way. Reef flip flops. Pop open your
God. Here's the thing. Like, I think that's just like a gimmick to get you to buy the flip flop. You're not actually supposed to use that. It's more
you use it a
decoration.
lot at the beach, baby. I'm sorry, because I don't have those mad skills otherwise.
No, we have a couple friends that can do the side of the table thing.
Yeah, see?
Yeah. I think people were more upset that you used your flip flop because it was on your sweaty foot in the middle of summer.
It's not on the foot side, it's on the underside.
Yeah, that's worse. This is so bad. I don't care how clean campus is. That's so bad.
I don't know. They're taking the lid off. You're not touching the part you drink.
You sure about that?
Positive. Deep cleansing breaths.
No, I think I'm excited. I think this is that'll be a good event. I don't know. It looks like they got a lot of good breweries lined up. Anything else we forgot to discuss on this week's?
No, I'll leave you with the flip flop. That's good. We'll be back next week.
I don't want to think about the flip flop. Okay. Oh, and we have an exciting guest already interviewed for next week's podcast as well. So be sure to check that one out. Okay, so thank you to Eric from Hoppy Valley Sports and Entertainment Alliance for joining us and spending some time talking about the Hoppy Valley Brew Fest. Thank you to Steve for hanging out with me tonight. Okay, let's see. We've discussed the podcast. We completed that. So now we need to plug the website, which is stuffsummersays.com. On that website, there is a section called With
Steve.
Might do a newsletter later this week. Haven't done a February newsletter, and we've got an extra day this February. So I think we should take advantage of that. So probably have something small. You can join that newsletter on the website somewhere. There's various places you can join the newsletter on the website. Let's see. We've got emails. Mine's Darian at stuffsummersays.com. Steve's is
Steve at stuffsummersays.com.
Thumbs up, 5 stars, all that stuff. Subscribe. That's the easiest way to support the show is thumbs up, 5 stars, and subscribe. And it's free, unlike NIL. Lastly, we've got Twitter handles. Mine's at Stuff Summer Says. Steve's is
at Steve Samsel.
Okay. See ya. Bye.